In the name of Allah. Hi everyone. Today I'm honored to have a discussion with Sheikh Dawud Walid from the United States of America. Sheikh Walid is currently the Executive Director of the Michigan chapter of the Council on American-Islamic Relations and a member of the Imams Council of Michigan. He has come a long way from the United States of America to stay with us for a few days. And we are honored to be his host for these days. Sheikh Walid, so nice to have you here. Welcome to Iran and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, as the first question, as you know, there is an expanding wave of protests among the American students in the United States of America in protesting against the Zionist regime's war crimes and the genocide in Gaza. And also, we are seeing very shocking videos from the arrest of the American students and also even the university professors. And as far as we know, almost 3,000 students have been arrested so far. Just for objecting to the fact that their tax money has been paid for bombing children and innocent civilians. And on the other hand, as you know, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, as it is claimed, protects the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, and the freedom of the press. So, as an American citizen, would you please answer to this question that what happened to that famous American freedom and democracy, and did it really exist in paper, in practice, or was it just on paper?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi tayyibin tahirin. So in regards to these protests, and specifically, but in the history of America, there's always been a double standard in many instances. And our Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he said, "In asharra nas al-wajhain," that the most wicked of the people has two faces. So America's always had this dichotomy. We've seen this in the history with the civil rights movement and how vicious police were with peaceful protesters who were African Americans in many states. Protests during the Vietnam War. Protest against the apartheid movement in South Africa. There's been a history, but we haven't seen something like this, at least as far as I know, since before I was even born, going back to the 1960s, right? So it depends on where you're protesting and also what issue. So this is the key, right? So in this regard, we have some universities where there's been protests and encampments, like the University of Michigan. They've been relatively peaceful, meaning all the protesters are peaceful. I mean the police. So there hasn't been any violence there per se. Or like a university, like Brown University, they were successful in getting Brown University to divest from Israel. So there is a spectrum. You'll see violence in New York, like Columbia University or NYU. The police were extremely brutal or violent. Same thing in California at USC or in Atlanta, Georgia at Emory University. In others, you see a softer approach and allow for the protest. So it depends really on the location and also the people who are involved in the protest. Ironically, by the way, that in New York City, many of those protesters and even some of the faculty got locked up were Yahud. So even in this situation, it doesn't matter if you're white or black or Arab or Irani. It's about the issue, because Yahudi people against the crimes of the Zionist regime, they themselves too, some of them got beat up by the police and got put in jail or lost their jobs.
Exactly. You mentioned the dichotomy. My second question is exactly about that. As you know, 2 years ago, there was a huge riots in Iran. And after the death of Mahsa Amini and their false story that she was killed, was tortured by the Islamic Republic. And while the CCTV footage clearly showed that she just fainted She was sent to the hospital, and she went to the coma, and she passed away. But that false story was enough for the rioters to pour into streets, and they were heavily armed, and they started to vandalize the public and private properties, and they even killed several Iranian police officers and security forces. And the point is that this is the statement of the U.S. Department in that time. I just read two lines of it for you. We condemn the use of violence against peaceful protesters. We support the rights of Iranians to peacefully assemble and to express themselves without fear of violence and detention by security forces. I think these sentences are exactly the same thing that are needed to be reminded to the Biden administration. And if you change the word Iranian people with the American students, it would be a great statement for Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs to issue for the Americans. So would you please tell us about this hypocrisy of the United States policies and the fact that they cannot tolerate the peaceful assemblies of the American students inside their country, but they support the violent and the armed protests, and better to say riots, in other countries.
So the issue is like in the United States of America itself, and I'll give two examples in which the local police departments were extremely violent. One was in the protests in Ferguson, Missouri, after an African-American young man named Mike Brown was shot and killed by the police, and it was on video, and it went throughout the entire world. People descended on Ferguson, and those people were met with extreme violence. Then we had, after the brutal killing of George Floyd, that caused protest, not just in America, all over the world, when he was killed. And police throughout America were extremely brutal towards protesters in the street. So we say in America, in the idiom, it's rich, right? That, but see, this mindset is based on a terminology called American exceptionalism. So American exceptionalism is that America thinks that it is much more pure and pristine than all other countries in the world, especially outside of the West. So America can chide other countries for certain things, even if they're not 100% true, right? While it's going on in our backyard, and then, but we as a country, this is the national dialogue or discourse, not just from the government, from a segment of the American people that says, oh, well, no other country has the right to criticize America and what it does as far as police brutality or violence, because that's not who we are as a people. So those bad incidences, they say, oh, those are exceptions. That's not really the rule. That's like very rare. Whereas they would try to say that what took place in Iran, that's normal. That's adi. That's the everyday thing. That's the generalized. Yeah. So this is part of the problem of the contemporary American discourse. So this starts from the administration, and it filters down into corporate media. And really, you mentioned this particular one issue, but really the interesting part is that social media in America, like TikTok, for instance, which they're trying to ban, but that shows the evidence of the video. It gives a different narrative, so the people in America, especially the youth, can see, oh, what you're saying about this and this is not really true, because we can see it with our own eyes. Like our eyes don't lie. And this is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said, "Laysa khabaru kam mu'ayyana," is that what you hear through news is not like what you can see with your eyes, right?
Exactly. We have the same expression in Farsi also.
Yeah.
شنیدن کی بود مانند دیدن. This is the Persian equivalence for what you just said. And my last question is exactly about the youth, just you mentioned. My question is about the recent statement made by Senator Tom Cotton. I read his statement about the students' protest. They're violently and illegally demanding death for Israel, just like their ideological twins, the Ayatollahs in Iran. So he clearly is trying to connect the students' protest to Islamic Republic. However, we know that not all the American students are connected to Islamic ideology, because they are protesting the genocide, against the genocide, because of their humanitarian sense, and because bombing and killing children and, I don't know, killing civilians, bombing hospitals, churches, and mosques are not acceptable in any culture and in any religion. So I think that he is trying to connect those students and protests to Iran and politicize that movement. And we should also consider the letter that was sent from the Supreme Leader of Islamic Republic of Iran, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, a few years ago to the Western youth. I want to ask you as a last question that how that letter was read and how much that was heard and read in the United States of America, and how it was received, and how it is, and how these protests is really related to the Islamic ideology. I believe that Tom Cotton is trying to politicize their humanitarian movement.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I doubt if 99% of the people protesting read that
Yeah, read that
that
letter.
letter.
Yeah.
Maybe there are some that did who are Muslim, but it's important for people to know that the majority of people who have been protesting in the streets and in the encampments have not been Muslim. Actually, the majority of them are not Muslim, and a certain percentage of them, again, are actually Yahudi, who are against the war crimes and ethnic cleansing of the Zionist regime. So this is just what we could call gaslighting. But there are also people in Congress, and to be honest, or fair, we should say, Tom Cotton is a very extreme person in Congress. He's known to be a racist. But then you have people like Senator Bernie Sanders, who himself is Jewish, who will criticize the policy and criticize Tom Cotton, right? So there's this, there's an ideological tension within the American Congress, and there are even people who are Democrats or liberals who even disagree with President Biden. So that's the way. But it's definitely, it's easy to mention Iran or Yemen to try to scapegoat them to make it seem as if these young people who are in university, who are intellectuals, they don't have a mind of their own, and they can't see the TikTok videos or the videos that circulate, as if they don't have a brain to understand what they see with their own eyes.
I see. I really enjoyed talking to you, sir. I wish we had much more time to continue this discussion, but unfortunately we're running out of time. I really thank you and appreciate you for dedicating your time to us, and I hope you have a good time in Iran.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much for watching us to the end. And I hope to see, and I wish to see the freedom and victory of the Palestinians and all the other oppressed people throughout the world. Thank you very much, and free Palestine.